What to do, what to do, what to do. Your boy Darue the Rue on another episode on Therapy Hub, brought from me to you. We're here to transform the mind and heal the soul. Now, before we begin, I just want to make something very clear. This is going to be a 10-part series and panel for this conversation that we're going to have based on gun violence. Now, the topic is called Before the Trigger, the conversation we need to have. It's going to be a 10-part series. Each episode may or may not have a guest, but most of them will be on Therapy Hub. So it will be under Therapy Hub. But if there is a guest, it will be under the live. So make sure when you are watching, or if you want to, watch more of the episodes throughout the series, make sure that you go to our playlist so that you can be able to find the episodes, because some are going to be on Therapy Hub and some are going to be on our live. Okay. But I just want to make something very clear today. This conversation is not going to be about glorifying violence. It's not going to be about taking sides. It's not going to be about politics, politicians. It's going to be about people. It's going to be about families. It's going to be about communities. It's going to be it's about understanding what happens before a trigger is even pulled. Because when we talk about gun violence, everybody wants to know, why are these things happening? But in order for you to know why are these things happening, you have to know yourself. You have to know somebody that's boots on the ground, or know what is happening before the trigger is even pulled. Because once that moment happens, everything changes. Not only for the victim, not only for the person who pulled the trigger, but for mothers, the family, some of them have children, their fathers, mothers, friends, neighbors, the community. Everybody's affected by it. Now, I want us to slow down and ask a difficult but necessary question. How did we get here? For decades and decades and decades, we've been dealing with gun violence. We've been dealing with horrific events of crime happening with, mass shootings and schools and you name it. So we got to ask ourselves, how did we get here? Now, I know most of us we playing the finger, the politicians, and the, programs, and which, has a part to play in it. Yes. But each piece of cake, if you want to eat them, or if you want to divide them in pieces, or if you want to divide them, or, give them out individually, they have to be divided. They have to be cut in slices. So each part of that pie has an increment, has a piece. So I think sometimes we got to stop also pointing the finger at others. Also, we got to start pointing the finger back at ourselves and figure out, what are we doing wrong? Where does it start? What are we doing in the households? What are we doing around our children? What world are we, like, what kind of life are we teaching them? What morals and principles are we teaching them? Now, the headlines don't tell the whole story. When you watch the news and you watch, CP24 or City Pulse, shout out to CP24 and City Pulse, they don't fully necessarily tell you the whole story, because media just covers the basis of it. Until they know the actual details, then they'll speak on it. But when they tell a story, or they you know, they do a breaking news headliner, they don't necessarily know the whole story or tell the whole story. But every week we wake up to a notification, another shooting, another teenager died, shot, killed, another child shot, you know, another candlelight vigil. And speaking of that, we're gonna light this. We're gonna light our candle here that we have up, okay? Because our candle is gonna be representing the victims of the shooting at the salsa festival on St. Clair. So there's our candle. It's lit. All right. That's the first time we lit our candle on Therapy Hub. So I want to just take actually a moment of silence. All right. Thank you. Now that's for the families and that's for the victim and the families and friends of the victim and the victims of not only the salsa shooting, but also the other shootings that have been happening across the city. I believe there was a triple shooting at Jane and Shepherd on Friday night. Um, there was another shooting down at Cherry and Harborfront the night before. So just everything that's been going on for the victims and the families. Where that was a moment of silence for you, and the candle being burnt throughout the episode is in tribute to that as well. Now we've heard these headlines so often that many of us have become numb to them. Okay, and that's very dangerous. The way I look at it, because violence should never become normal. Um, Throughout my whole life, it has been. I grew up violence being normal, being normalized because that's all I knew. So we know that this is a problem that's happening with not just the society, but within our own culture and how we're taught and the things that we're taught and some of our morals. Now, the basic morals in life to defend yourself and to stick up for yourself when you have to, that's a basic moral that you just grow up to learn anywhere in school. But to actually reach out and act in violence. Now, I kind of I was a live wire when I was young. Okay. And I have to sometimes think about when I talk about the young generation or the younger generation, or I have to think about the younger generation, I should say. I have to think about myself because I was once them. And I kind of have to pull myself. I know a lot of the OGs are kind of hard on the younger generation because it the principles and the morals don't match. That's why it's kind of clashing, right? But if you kind of like put yourself in the shoes of a young person, you think of only one thing, and the only thing I can really think of is like not knowing better, not having the proper teaching, the the proper understanding, overstanding, the the proper education, the guidance. Those things became are those things are supposed to be how a child grows and how a child learns. But when you take away those things, then you have an upbringing that is you only know one thing. and you only know what you're taught because you're around that, and that's all that's around you. Like, and I'm going to tell you, it's hard because getting out of the streets is not easy. It's not an easy thing because even your character attracts certain energy. So it's hard to, like, if you see somebody that's a working class individual and you're just this person that doesn't speak proper and has a demeanor, that person's not going to be want to be around you. So the only people that you're going to attract are those same people, unfortunately. So even when you're trying to change, you can't change because you're still attracting the same people. So you could be, and this has happened to me till recently. Like, I would mean within the last year. Okay, guys, where my changes, like, look, I used my I lost a little bit of weight. I don't know if y'all been telling, because like I've been kind of like thinking like, how do I get away from certain people? Because there's just some energy I just don't want to be around. I don't want to have to deal with. And even when you keep long distance friends that you've known forever, the long distance friend still has the same principles and same morals, everything that you guys grown up and lived by. So some things may change, and there may be a situation where you may have to go to the police or call the police and make a report for something. You're called a snitch and all this stuff now, and you're a grown man, 40, 50 years old. Because, that's wrong, and you grew up on different morals. But there's sometimes where, you can't get yourself into trouble anymore. So if something comes your way, it's either you fight or you flight. And if you fight, 8 times out of 10, if you got a record or you are involved or were involved in anything and the police are in contact with you, you're going to be looked at as the aggressor. You're going to be looked at as the bad guy. So they always say you got to make the first call. Because if you don't make the first call, then you're going to look like you're the bad guy. And unfortunately, I fought myself, and to this time, I'm still going through the civilian process of just understanding and knowing, Darue, you are a civilian now. So, but even as a civilian, that energy may not take that way. They may still feel like it's lame and it's just not in their repertoire. They can't live, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But you can't hold that against them, and they can't hold that against you. You guys got to you're two different cloths. You're two different lifestyles, and you got to just leave it that way. Go that way, and they stay that way. But I think we spend too much time also talking. And like I'm saying now, like how I'm explaining now, all these things take action, right? But I think we spend too much time talking, trying to figure out what the problem is, because sometimes a lot of the people that are talking weren't a part of the problem. They're looking outside of the box in, and they're like, okay, we think that this is it. It's like people that are new to something, right? You're looking outside it until you fully experience it and live it. You're not going to be able to know the ins and outs of it, right? So I always tell this to some of the politicians that I've worked with and some of the organizations that I work with, that if you want to make a change, you have to hire people that have been through it, people that can identify. That's because that's the only way that you're going to know, and you're going to be able to really dig inside and find the root cause to it. A scientist can't do that. They can tell you how human behavior is, but they can't tell you why that is happening. And the most part is because it's us that has to do the work. Okay? We got to stop pointing the finger and start pointing the finger back at ourselves. All right? Now, what pain was somebody carrying before? Like these things that we have to ask, right? What happened before it happened? You know, what anger does that person what anger did that person deal with over the years, right? What fear did they have? Rejection, that's a big thing. Rejection is like huge because people get rejected. That's when you feel like, okay, the world's against you. And the next thing that, the next time that somebody says something, you snap. Disappointment, hopelessness. So, today's episode, we're gonna talk about it. It's not about making excuses. It's about, and I'm not even supposed to even really get into the actual, I gave you guys the whole answer pretty much. I wasn't supposed to do that because we're gonna actually go and see what each of these people are, these individuals, what their opinions are on what this route, where we got to start. And that's why I named, I had the topic, I named the topic before the trigger, because before the trigger is pulled, there's something going on. Okay. Now, this is also about recognizing the warning signs. Okay. Recognizing the warning signs before another family receives that heartbreak phone call. Now, what happens before the trigger? As I mentioned before, no one is born violent. Okay? Everybody's innocent. Everybody. And every person's story is different. Some grow up surrounded by love, others grow up surrounded by trauma. Some people experience neglect, others experience abuse. Some never even learn healthy ways to deal with anger or to deal with life. Some believe respect only comes through fear. You fear somebody, you respect them. Some believe respect only comes, others feel that like that fear can only help you a certain way because you're scared of somebody. Or you fear somebody. That's going to help you overcome your fear to respect. So you're only going to respect them because you fear them. These are things that people go through. I know it sounds like I'm labeling it, but no, I'm saying that these are the things that people go through. I'm just kind of like putting it out there so we can kind of see how serious it is. Others feel like sometimes there's absolutely nothing left to lose. I'm not gonna lie, I felt like that too sometimes. Like, yo, there's nothing left to lose. Like, it's done. But again, these aren't excuses. They're realities. Now, we'll continue reacting after tragedies instead of preventing them before they happen. Imagine if we invested as much in prevention. Because every time something happens, that's when we're here. That's when you see the politician or the mayor. That's when you see the chief. That's when you see the premier. So imagine all this time that we're investing in when these things happen and all these people come together for a press conference. Imagine if we did that consistently as much. Or imagine we end up responding as much when the violence after the violence occurs. How different would this neighborhood look? How many lives could be changed? How many families could like actually spread the unimaginable pain? Sometimes I gotta ask myself: is anger really the problem? Is that really the issue? Back to investing in prevention as much as we do responding after the violent situation occurs. I want to be honest. Everybody gets angry. Okay, like I mean, everybody gets angry. I've been angry. I've just gotten angry recently. Everybody gets mad and angry. This is something that we're gonna learn on through Therapy Hub. That is normal. Even if you want to get mad on Therapy Hub and come on here and yell and scream, do it. Get it off your chest. Anger itself isn't the enemy. It's what we do with it. Because sometimes when I overreact to my anger, I feel like, whoa, what am I doing? I can't, my eyes hurt me. I can't breathe. I'm just like, my anxiety's through the roof. My heart's pumping. Like, I just don't know what to do. Now, some people pray. I mean, that's great. After I pray, I feel 10 times better. So I highly suggest that that's what some people do if you are facing anxiety or going through an anger problem. Some people take a walk. I also find that that's also helpful because the the uh the inhalants of fresh air, right? The inhale of fresh air. Sorry, I should say not the inhalants. The inhale of fresh air is refreshing. Some call a friend. I highly suggest that if you have somebody, support system's huge. Some write, some work out, some ask for help, others explode. Now, I've been trying to do all of the above, and the last one was like something that I never wanted to, or sorry, something that I never want to happen, even now. But sometimes we skip all of these things that I said, right? Taking a walk, praying, calling a trusted friend, writing, working out, asking for help. We skip all these things while we're angry and we explode. Now, I'm a perfect example for this. Why? Because no one ever taught me emotional control. No one's ever taught me emotional control. And there's other people that have gone through that as well. So when you get angry, rah, and you rage out and you do something based on your anger, that's because you don't have emotional control. It's unresolved trauma, right? But then sometimes we got to go back and ask ourselves, is it also pride? Because sometimes we're very prideful, right? So not sometimes, most of the time, especially as men, we're very prideful. We also can ask ourselves, is it untreated mental health, right? Struggles. Are, like, have we taught people that walking away somehow makes them weak? Because I was talking to somebody today and I was just like, man, and this is going back to how we're taught, right? What we learn, our culture. Because I remember I was just talking to somebody today and I was like, man, like, I have to live that civilian lifestyle. Like, my lawyer was like, yo, bro, you are a public servant, man. You got to walk away or call the police. Do one of the two, right? But you have to make that decision. You can't snap, because if you do, you're going to put yourself in a position. And it almost costed me, me getting in trouble again. It could have. But the most important thing was how I controlled it after, what I did with it, because I could have went above and beyond, right? Because like our culture teaches us, like, you got to be strong, can't be a punk, can't be this and that. But sometimes the situation, you have, whatever the situation is, you have to walk away, bro. And as men, it's very hard, especially coming from streets, being a somebody, to walk away from somebody telling you something. Names don't really hurt me depending on the names, right? But that's very hard. So these are the things that we have to work on, and in the community, we got to teach especially the ones growing up, the younger generation, the younger generation, on how to have emotional control. Because I think that, like, we may have been teaching the wrong definition of strength all along. As much as we're strong and powerful people and we don't take no bull crap and blah 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 blah, I just feel like the definition of strength that we've been taught, I think it's been wrong. And drop it in the comments if you feel that I'm right or I'm wrong, because I could be right, I can be wrong, but I just feel for some odd reason that this is some of the reason why we're going through what we're going through. You see on the news, two guys with a gun, they see each other. None of them acknowledge one has a gun. None of them say, hey, whoa, okay, this guy has a gun on him. I have my gun. It could be some serious. Now, it all depends if whoever exchanged the gun, they shot first, because whoever was exchanging the gunfire back was on self-defense. But whoever started shooting first was the one that should have made the decision on, yo, I think this guy has a gun. It could be a possibility that he has a gun on him. There's lots of people outside. There's kids out here. There's families. I'm just going to leave it for another day. At least that. That's emotional control. But deciding to do it when there's tons of people outside and kids running around and there's kids outside and families, to me, is unacceptable and deserves the harshest punishment that you can get. However, you can change. You can change your life because it's choosing your future over your pride is what we have to start thinking about here. This is something that I started thinking about that was going through my head and over and over and over again is that we got to start thinking about, we got to start choosing our future over our pride. It's protecting your family instead of destroying someone else's. Everybody wants to protect their family and care for their family and do this and that for their family. And if anybody messes with their family, they're going to go do this and that. But what? And then you're out there destroying other people's families. And I'm not saying that, you know, this is what these, like, what I'm just saying, generally speaking, this is the content, or this is the sorry, this is the logic, what I'm trying to explain. It doesn't make any sense. It's contradicting and it's selfish. It's narcissistic. So we got to think about having enough wisdom, or us having is having the wisdom, enough wisdom to be able to walk away from the moment that you could change your life forever. And it starts with myself. I'm not going to sit up here and say, "Oh, I'm perfect and I'm the best therapist and the person on Therapy Hub," because I'm not. I'm not even a licensed therapist. I just do this show because I've lived real life experiences. I've gone through some real tough times and I've overcome those things, and I'm a leader. I'm a community leader, so I know how to deal with certain things. Or I shouldn't say know how to deal with certain things, because there's sometimes where I fail. I should say I've experienced certain things, so I know how to talk about them. I know how to share my story and my pain. Being quiet is good, but the strongest people I've ever met are the loudest. Or sorry, aren't the loudest. Okay? So now I didn't mean to say but. Sorry. But the ones who pause and think, the ones who take a second to say, "Hey, look, am I making this decision the right decision?" They're actually the ones that choose a better path. I'm not going to say those are the ones that you should watch out for and look out for, because that's a threat. What I'm going to say is I'm going to put them on a better pedestal, and I'm going to say that those are the ones that choose a better path because they think. I used to be, I've always been a loud individual, even the loudest person in the room at times. I can be very quiet as well, though. But my anger made up for my loudness. But it destroyed me because I couldn't be angry and quiet and get away with anything because I was so loud. So every time that I would do something in anger, I was loud and I would get in trouble for it. That was a weakness that I had to overcome because I realized that, hey, look, I'm not making the right choices. And I just said this recently, I had a situation where I had to stop and think after and be like, okay, yo, I'm not going to do anything extra. I'm just going to keep it moving because, and my sister said, like, you can't be like this, bro. You can't. You gotta follow what you're saying here, and what you've been working on over these years and what you've been teaching people. You gotta follow the same pattern. Something happens, just walk away. If unless someone puts their hands on you and you feel like you have to defend yourself, then that's fine. But for the most part, just walk away. It's hard though. And anybody that's from where I'm from, well, they're gonna tell you, man, yo, nah, that man. What? Nah, I don't live like that. Nah, bro. But I think that's the best way to live if you want to live long. Now I want to hear from you guys. We've been 35 minutes here. We're gonna wrap it up soon. I want to hear from you guys. So please drop it in the comments. Put it in our chat box, our comment box throughout our series, or because we're gonna be having a 10-part series to this, so there's gonna be a lot more to talk about. But I want to hear from you, and I want you to think honestly about these questions that you're gonna ask, because I want to know what you believe is contributing to so much violence today. And if you believe that I'm on the right path, or if you believe what I'm saying is true, if you believe my opinion is has some type of somewhat some facts to it, because everything, like I said, is going to boil down to the panel and the questions that we're going to ask in the panel, because we're going to think about like all the times that we've actually sat down and talked. And I've done a lot of panels on gun violence. I've sat on panels, and I've realized that the topics on panels are the same, right? It's the same topic. And I really wanted to get really into it. And even with my documentary and with the Man's Cry, shout out Man's Cry documentary. If you haven't watched it, go and watch it. It's on YouTube now. And if you haven't subscribed, please like, subscribe, and share that video, because that documentary is insane. We talk about youth gun violence, the young gentleman who Javay Roy, who lost his life while sleeping in his bed. We went to his march, and we interviewed some people in regards to. We couldn't interview his mom, unfortunately, but we did interview some of the people within the organization that was holding his march, and it was a great event. But we wanted to kind of like talk about these things and tackle the root cause. And then we also talk about epilepsy. We feel like epilepsy is not a mental health issue, or it's not a mental health. I should say it's not a mental health diagnosis, but it meets the mental health criteria, because when you have epilepsy, you tend the symptoms of mental health. You do incur the symptoms of mental health, with depression and loss of weight and you know trauma and confidence and a whole lot of other things that come into that mix. So we talk about it, and we have a couple of people that are living with epilepsy, and we interviewed them. We did a update on James. So if you've seen A Man's Cry, you will see James, who is the gentleman who is the young man who that has epilepsy, is living with epilepsy, and kind of the struggles that he's going through. But we also give the update and how he's doing now, because there's terrific news on him, and he thanks a lot of it because of the documentary, because it's giving him support. So pat on our backs for that, and a round of applause. And we're gonna keep going. So we're gonna come up with a part 2. So if you haven't watched that documentary, watch it. It's called A Man's Cry. And if you see, it's right here on my wall behind me, framed, produced by me, Darue the Rue. It's on YouTube now, on our YouTube channel. Just go to our playlist and hit the docuseries and you'll get it. Okay. I'm going to head out soon, but I just wanted to leave a closing message before I go. And I just want to summarize what I was talking about. And I just want to summarize, like, we got to make sure that are ask these questions. Are the young people being taught? Right? Does social media encourage conflict? Because sometimes, we may not have the resources and the programs for them, but even if we did, they may not even be interested in the resources that we have. So, what is it how can we reach them? Through social media? Yes, because we know that social media encourages conflict, because it has over the years. People's died on social media. It's caused beef, problems, right? So we know where we got to tackle things. We're just, I think, a little oblivious to it, which is all good. That's why your boy Darue the Rue is here. But we also ask, like, are young people being taught emotional intelligence, emotional control? That's huge. Something that I wish that I was taught, because I wouldn't be going through the things that I'm going through now. I'm learning that now at 42 years old. Okay. So we have responsibilities, guys. We have a role to play. Schools, families, communities. It's all a collective way of raising and growing a child. Okay, so each of us, we have a job to do. All right. Leave your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, and subscribe if you like what you seen today. If you like the show today, and please be sure to tap into our other topics that we're going to be having throughout the month, man. Because we're going to get busy with this. It's going to be 10 parts, so we're going to be online more often. All right. And just remember, always care for somebody, and be there for somebody, and give somebody a call. You never know if they need you. All right. It's your boy Darue the Rue. Until the next time I see you, peace and love.